Straight up. Welcome to your Way Happy Bible Study. I'm Lisa Dennis Sparks, and you're watching Christians United Broadcasting Network. CUBN, where we want to see you be encouraged in Jesus' name. Welcome back to your Way Happy Bible Study on CUBN. We are in Zanesville, Ohio. We drove about 400 miles today, to recap, for those of you that are just joining us, and landed in a hotel here, and we're trying to do a little bit of a study. We're going to have to sign off here in around 10-15 minutes, so we can, my friends and I can go to dinner before everything closes. Honest, we're hungry. We didn't stop before we stopped at a hotel, so I love you guys. I'm on Eastern time here, so I guess that means we'll have a shorter Bible study for you guys in Central Time as well. Sorry about that. We're just kind of on the fly, and then we'll try to stop and do the show again tomorrow night, wherever we are. I don't think we'll make it all the way tomorrow, but we still have about 800 miles to go. We drove 400 today, and so we've still got a while to drive. But we're in chapter 8. Let's go ahead and get into our study. In chapter 8 of the book of Daniel, in the first verse we were talking about who Belshazzar is, the son of Nebuchadnezzar, the head of gold. Okay? And then after Belshazzar died, he was the one that saw the hand appear and the writing on the wall. And then he died that night, and then Darius, the Mede, of the Medes and the Persians, he took over after Belshazzar. So in the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. So he's getting confirmation dreams. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns. So now we have a third vision, okay? And the ram which had 2 horns is Medo-Persia. Okay, you have 2 horns, the Medes and the Persians. And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat, now this is Alexander the Great, came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. That's Alexander. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. So this is where Alexander the Great took over the kingdom from the Medes and the Persians. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns. That's Media and Persia. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him. So Alexander conquered them. But he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him. And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. So Medo-Persia went down just as prophesied. And then it says, therefore the he-goat waxed very great. That's Alexander the Great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. He died at a young age, at his height of his power in his early 30s. And for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. This is where his kingdom was broken up into 4 pieces. We talked about that, remember? And in verse 9, and out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great, toward the south. Now this little horn would be, in here, that would be Seleucus, one of the 4 who formed the kingdom of Rome. In verse 10, and it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts. Cast down some of the hosts, and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. So this is the time in revived Rome is when you have we have the New World Order being established. When Satan gets here, it'll go into full swing, but that should be very closer after the evacuation. If I'm right about the 6th seal, we'll see. We'll have to see about that. If it opens July 27th, it might not, but if it does, it'll have several very important effects that identify it. See, the sun has to go dark. You have a great earthquake, and the sun has to go dark where it's shining when the blood moon appears over Israel. So if it doesn't turn dark on July 27, we know to keep watching, and that I've got to go back and figure out what I missed on Daniel's equation. But if the sun does turn dark, then and you have the quake, you have the key identifiers for the 6th seal, and that's the proof that the 6th seal would have opened. And that verifies the rest of my timeline. Okay? We'll just have to see how it works out. In verse 11, yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the hosts. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away. This is our Antichrist. And the place of his sanctuary was cast down. See, the Vatican is going to be destroyed at some point by the 10 kings. And then the Antichrist will reside in the temple in Jerusalem after that. In verse 12, and an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. So as the world hasn't seen a functioning temple. You're looking at thousands of animals every day being slaughtered. It's like a river of blood runs through it all the time. And the people of the earth are going to cry out against all these animals being sacrificed, especially when the world is starving and you're into a global famine. And so the Antichrist will stop the sacrifices. It'll be a PETA nightmare. They'll be going, you're killing all these animals. You can't do that. Stop it. And there'll be a great outcry. And then that's when the sacrifices and oblations will cease. Right, if my timeline is accurate, it would be somewhere around December 21st of 2018. Yeah, this year. So a host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reasons of transgression. The world's saying, hey, you can't do this. It's messed up. That's wrong. And it cast down the truth to the ground. The false church is denying that Jesus Christ is Lord to the glory of God the Father. So they're casting down the truth, which is Jesus, and his deity to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice, and the transgression of desolation? Now, when it uses the word desolation, it's talking about the defiling of the temple every single time. So you have the daily sacrifice. He wants to know, how long shall the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days. Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Now this is 70 AD, as well as a lot of this scripture here is 70 AD fulfillment, and the 2300 days would be the 70 AD fulfillment. In verse 14, and he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, and then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. And so that was back then. In verse 15, and it came to pass when even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning. Then, behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. So he's got an angel talking to him again. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. Now, Gabriel is an archangel. He's the one that came and brought the news to Mary that she was blessed and highly favored of the Lord and would have the Christ child as her son. And he's the same one who went to Zechariah in the temple to tell him that he and Elizabeth would bear a child in their old age. In verse 17, so he came near where I stood, this archangel. And when he came, I was afraid and fell upon my face. I guess he's pretty, Gabriel's pretty intimidating looking. He's an archangel, one of three. You have Michael, the general of God's armies. Gabriel is the messenger. And then you have Lucifer, who was in charge of worship and music, who fell. So he says, but he said unto me, understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. Now, as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground. But he touched me and set me upright. And he said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation. For at the time appointed, the end shall be. And see, it's a moed, an appointed time. It is already set, an appointed time. In verse 20, the ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. So see, he's telling the interpretation, just like what I told you it was a while ago. The ram has the two horns, that's the kings of Media and Persia. The rough goat is the king of Grecia, that's Alexander the Great. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. That's Alexander, okay? Now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it. Alexander's kingdom was divided into four pieces upon his death. 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. They don't have the same kind of power over the whole thing that Alexander had, but they get their own, 1 out of 4 kingdoms. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark senses shall stand up. That's our Antichrist. Oh gosh, we're out of time. I love you guys. We're going to start tomorrow in chapter 8, verse 24. And God bless you. And should the Lord tarry, we'll see you here tomorrow or there or in the air. God bless you.